Fresh from the showcase here at SwissWatchExpo, today we have an incredibly complicated watch, which might not be something you think of when you think of the brand Breitling, but hopefully this piece will change that perception. Breitling's always known for making big, really modern-looking sport pieces. That seems to be their real bread and butter now. And one of the best examples I could think of now, one of the most unique and definitely the most complicated one I've gotten my hands on recently, is this incredible super chronomat. And I think taking one look at this watch, it should not be any surprise why they called this super. This has got a lot going on compared to a standard chronomat. Beautiful design. It's a pretty big, beefy 44 millimeters with a pretty thick profile, the first thing you'll notice. So again, this has got a lot of Breitling DNA in it, even though it's a lot more complicated than a lot of other pieces that I've seen from them recently. So this is, as you can tell, ton going on with the dial. This is an annual calendar chronograph, or what Breitling calls a 4-year calendar. They market this as a 4-year semi-perpetual calendar that only needs to be set once every leap day. Which to me is the essential definition of an annual calendar. So while they don't describe it as this, it does have all the trappings and look and walk and quack like an annual calendar. So I see no reason to call it anything different. But that is still not taking anything away from how just incredibly complicated and well put together this piece is. A ton going on with the dial, which as a pilot's watch makes it probably busier than just about any Navitimer I've laid my eyes on. But I do really like the way that they use this space. As you can see, the date, we'll start at 12. The date window at 12 is sharing its space with, looks like the second hand. And then you'll see at 9 o'clock, if we actually move counterclockwise, you actually have the 30-minute register as well as the month indicator. And then at 6 o'clock, you will have the day of the week as well as the 12-hour register. And the reason I saved this next one for last, one of my favorite complications is a moonphase indicator. It looks beautiful, and they did include this on this watch. And what's interesting is that it has the 3 o'clock register all to itself. I feel like almost every annual calendar that incorporates a moonphase somehow combines the moonphase with some other register. One, because that would be the easiest to read. For some reason, Breitling felt compelled to give the moon its own little platform here, which I think is unique. I do love the way a moonphase indicator looks, and I think Breitling agrees with that, and they really wanted to separate this from the more complicated side of the register, which is perfectly fine, even if it does make the actual date, I think, a little harder to read otherwise. Zooming out ever so slightly, we do have rose accents on this ceramic bezel, which I really like. Just the smallest bit of precious metal here. I think rose gold is the right choice. You'll see on the actual raised indicators here. This is a unidirectional bezel, even though it's not technically a dive watch, but this does have a real big, thick ceramic bezel, which does make it super sporty, and I think this is an appropriate choice. The other piece you'll see ceramic and rose gold accents is going to be on the crown here, which I really love. And then the pushers, which are screw-down pushers. This is water resistant to 100 meters, by the way. So for all the complications that are contained within this movement, the screw-down chronograph, I believe, is safe to operate up to 100 meters under the surface. But you do have the actual pusher inside the screw-down little sleeve there is going to be ceramic as well. This does not have an exhibition case back. Sadly, this is such a complicated movement. I bet it would be a sight to behold. But this case back, high polished, in fact, showing the Breitling Chronomat here, as well as I believe the it does say chronometer on the other side. Not the water resistance advertised on the case back, but it is 100 meters per the spec sheet. And then on the other side, these are actually the small push pin buttons that you can actually use to manipulate the date and actually set this calendar. Of course, that is absolutely vital for something like this. This will definitely be a piece for your watch winder, even though I'm sure they made it very easy to set the time and date. For anyone who's ever had to set an annual or perpetual calendar, it is tedious every time you have to do it. The bracelet, again, super sporty. This is sort of like, I forget the name that they call these links, but I call them like barrel-shaped links going all the way down. And then we have the two small high-polished segments alternating on every other little barrel here. Otherwise, this is an all-brushed finish, which I think really does lend itself well to the ruggedness of this piece. Breitling does a lot of really high-polished bracelets, and I'm really glad they did a mostly brushed example on this one. So this is a fairly recent offering from Breitling. So again, this is the cutting edge of their movement technology, of their design. This is really everything Breitling is trying to throw into the top tier end of their pieces that they're offering now. I think they did a fantastic job. If you love a modern looking Breitling, aesthetically, this has got everything you want. And if you want to add something a little more complicated to your collection of big beefy sport watches, this is one of the best values you can get. This is one of the best examples you can get in this size and in this design, I really think. So it really does stand alone in Breitling's catalog. And of course, we've got a ton of others, not just this one. If you want the classics like a Navitimer, if you want to get your first Super Ocean to get things started, we've got all those things in stock, ready to ship to you today. So give us a call. Let's talk about them at SwissWatchExpo.com.